Welcome to NUFC Talk TV. We got one for you tonight or today about some latest news on all things Newcastle United. A big exclusive from the Daily Mail, now confirmed by many other outlets, that Joelinton is set to miss the rest of the season for Newcastle United in a major blow to their top five fight. And we'll get the lads here to have their opinion on the latest, and also we'll touch on some other news as well. So some important news coming up, fellas. What do you guys think? Hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Become a member of the channel. Support the channel. Smash the like button right now. Let's get to 100 as soon as we can, and let us know in the comment section what you think about this, about these news here.
Solid lad, and we missed that. I mean, we saw against Ipswich sometimes it looked a little bit awkward in midfield because his presence just isn't there. And when the likes of Joe Willock comes on board, obviously you're looking at Joe to bring in something else. And like I say, Joe works best down that inside left channel. But again, is it the fact that we're overloading the same space? You've got Harvey Barnes, Tino, all playing in the same void. So is it restricting the balance of the side? It looked a little bit awkward in the first half against Ipswich, seemed to work out a little bit better in the second half. But I think, for me, whoever comes in there, whether it's a little shuffle, we're always going to miss J7 because of what he brings the team, the disruptor, as I call him, the general. You've got the conductor there with Tonali, who seems to get the momentum of play and cover the grass. You've got Bruno, who's the 10, 8, who will just support on that inside right channel. And for me, like I say, the balance of them three players in that middle of the park allows all three of them to be fluid. So they can attack 1 minute, they can defend the next. You don't get that with anybody else that comes in. And I think it's something that I think the closest player we have to any of those three is probably Miley. But obviously you lose the physical presence then of the J7. You get the player ability of the Brunos and Tonalis, but you miss the physical presence. So for me, every time one of them three comes out of the side, there has to be a little bit of a shift in the tactics because you lose a little bit of something from the middle of the park.
Yeah. As regards J7 for the rest of the season, Eddie said in the presser, the likelihood is it'll be difficult for him to play again. But with Joe, we can never rule him out. I think he's so motivated to try and come back, but he had discomfort in his knee last week, just before the game. So he sought a specialist's opinion. That opinion was that it was nothing serious, but he needed a period of rest.
Well, I mean, it's all good saying that about Joelinton, but you can give hope.
I don't think they're going to risk him.
Yeah, it makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. And listen, he's got to sit out. It's 4 games, unfortunately. That he's been dealing with that, by the way. And I don't necessarily think it's a bad it's a horrible injury or anything like that. But it just might take 4 weeks. The rest of the season. And he was sent for a scan over the past weekend after feeling pain in his knee during training on Friday. So it just might. But do you think that? What do you think about missing J7 for the rest of the season?
Well, I think we're going to miss him, as Gary said, because he's our enforcer in the middle of the park. But there are ways round it. The thing is, can Willock step up? Because for me, Willock's never really been the same player since he came back from injury. Is that just because, like Barnes, he needs a few games of running the team? Mm-hmm. And if he gets that, are we going to see him back to his best? Because if we can see him back to his best, then he's a player worth having. But if he can't step up, we've still got other alternatives. We can, as Jamie said in the match preview, we could go to 5 at the play 2 in midfield, go 5 at the back with wing backs. That's assuming Botman's fit, which we're told he is as well. Eddie said that at the presser yesterday. He's had a full week's training now. That doesn't necessarily make him match fit, but as a centre half, do you have to be match fit, but different to being a creative kind of player? So that's one option, and we know we can do that because we did it so successfully against Arsenal in the Carabao. So I'd be prepared to give that a go. There's also the possibility of going 4-4-2, which
but I mean, it's very rare that Eddie has changed that formation. But I mean,
because he hasn't needed to, because we've always had the 3 of them.
But don't you think that's? You wouldn't want to just keep things the same as they have worked and just put Lewis Miley there.
Well, no, because if you put Miley in, you've almost got to play Miley on the right, and then that means switching Bruno. Now, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. That would be my preferred solution, to tell you the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see Miley given more. It's a bit like the Asula-Wilson debate, isn't it? Wilson's had his chance, didn't take it. Asula's come in, did take it. So Asula should be in front of Wilson, in my opinion, now in the pecking order. Same with Willock and Miley. Willock's had his chance. For me, hasn't really taken it. Miley came on against Ipswich, albeit on the right, so it meant the switch, but did really well. Probably had his best game this season for us when he has come on. So I would personally, if it was up to me, I'd play Miley instead of J7 and switch Bruno to the left.
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting thing to see what happens. I mean, actually, it hasn't, I don't really notice fans really losing their minds over Joelinton. I think it's a massive blow, to be honest. Not having a player like that who can definitely help you out when you're away. In that Arsenal game, definitely you need somebody like that, but you're not going to have. Probably that's the only game that you really are looking to say that we could really use that temperament in the midfield. But all of them, really. Brighton, the one coming up, is going to be a massive one without him. But we have managed without him. And actually, we did beat, as you said, Arsenal away. So maybe he can replicate that. I don't know. But we'll get into that, of course. J7 for right now being out of the season. Next one, Luke Edwards is reporting on his X account that Newcastle cannot sign 60 to 70 million players this summer, so they have to be strategic. They really like Mbeumo, Mbeumo, but that's not how you spell his name, though. It's Mbeumo, basically, and are likely to firm up that interest, but Brentford will rightly hold out for as much as they can get. They don't have to sell if they don't want to. Which I don't necessarily know that's true. The player wants to leave, that puts pressure there. But the point is, there's a lot of ways to take this, by the way. Talk about Mbeumo and his fee. Is 60 million too much for Mbeumo? You guys mentioned earlier about the salary, 200,000 a week. Is that too much for your supposedly main star right wing?
That is too much.
So is it too much? But also begs the question that Newcastle have not signed a player in 3 windows. A player that's,
first team ready.
Not a young lad, and we still cannot spend more than we can only spend 60 million. It's still surprising to me how the math is not mathing. And so I don't know which way to take this, but there's so many ways to do it. But what do you guys think?
Don't forget, 60 million is only going to take 12 million out of what we've got available.
Yeah, but
amortised.
According to his report, we can't do that.
Well, you know me and other people's finances. You can't. It's as simple as that. Chelsea have been doing it for years.
You've just got to kick the can down the road, haven't you?
That's
And
all
I
you
think that's
do.
the thing.
I understand that, but the fact of the matter is Newcastle haven't done that. And
Well,
it's not.
we did it with Amanda, didn't we? We kicked the can a little bit further down the road than we wanted to.
Yeah.
And I think to try and get us on that level, the crest of the wave, if you like, and like I say, finishing fourth, it got everybody expectations to be doing exactly that year in, year out. And I think once you start throwing money at players, the expectation is you're going to continue to throw money at players. Now, we all know now that obviously Chelsea are struggling because of their in-house doings, selling and buying amongst each other, which I think is being investigated. I think there's a lot of clubs that are in and around us in the same situation now. We saw Forest have points deduction to try and throw money at players. So I think what Newcastle are trying to do is be canny. Now, I mentioned to Win about, is Mbeumo better than any other player that we've got in the Newcastle side? And if he's not, why should he demand a higher wage?
Yeah, but he doesn't have to be.
Should they just stop pitch it at the 180 mark, which matches our highest paid player at the moment, which is Bruno?
And I'm sure that wouldn't be an issue, to be honest.
That's where it's going to have to be if he wants to come here.
120, but think about it though. 180. Would you say 120 or 180?
180.
Yeah, 180 to 200. I mean, that's not really. If that's the problem, I'm sure everybody can get to an agreement.
Well, it is, and so for that, it makes him the highest paid player.
And everybody comes knocking at your door saying, "Why is he on
Bruno's
this?"
saying, "How's he on that when I'm only on this?"
And I'm the captain of the club,
Yeah,
and
but
blah blah blah.
Right. So you do got a point. But when you make these signings, I mean,
it's a threshold that we need to get to. I mean, I'm not saying there should be a cap on the wages at Newcastle. I'm saying there's going to be a threshold at some point. If we want this player badly enough, they're going to have to spend.
That's right.
And I think that's the question. When do we go through that door?
But that is my concern. The thing is though,
is anybody sitting there? I mean, Isaac's contract goes till 2028. Is anybody sitting down with Isaac now and saying, "Look, what do I have to do to make sure you're staying here, etc., etc., etc.?" And he is rightly going to be demanding, I would think, a minimum 250 a week. That's going to make him Newcastle's highest paid player comfortably.
Yeah, no.
And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think the other players in the team will appreciate that is the case. That goal scorers are who you pay the top dollar for.
Yeah, well, that could be Mbeumo.
The premium, aren't they? Same as goalkeepers. If you've got a really good goalkeeper, you're always looking at, there's going to be teams out there that are willing to pay the wage. So they can demand something a little bit different. Exactly the same as goal scorers. They're the two real prestigious areas of the 11, if you like. I always think that, if you can find somebody who's out there at the top of the game who can save you conceding and then go up the field and then score a goal, it's surprising how much they can demand from elsewhere.
But I just don't. I don't think you'll find any club where, serious club where the goalkeeper is on higher wages than what.
But you won't. But what I'm saying is, if you look at the positioning, so if you look at goalkeepers as in a whole. The teams, the likes of Alisson, Edison, always can demand a higher wage. I'm not saying it's going to be the same as Haaland or these big strikers. What I'm saying is they're on the next level regarding wages, not at the same wage cap.
Yeah. All I say is, if you want to keep a happy squad, you can't have one player other than a goal scorer.
Yeah, but Mbeumo is there to do that. He's a goal scorer. He's an attacking player. He's not, it's not like only center forwards get paid a lot of money. No, wingers do. Rashford got paid a lot of money. Just for one example. Saka gets paid a lot of money, so those guys get paid a lot of money as well. Midfield, De Bruyne gets paid a lot of money. The difference makers get paid. That's who gets paid a lot of money. And if Mbeumo's going to be that, well, I mean, it is what it
Listen,
is.
the way I look at it, for me now, this could be literally a smokescreen. The way I look at this now is all the reports that are coming out about us not wanting to pay or can't afford to pay. Is this because of Newcastle tax, as we said before? Is this to try and put a little bit of a blanket on there saying, listen, we may be the richest club, but we're not going to go to the demands of what people want to pay. We will give you a value for that player, as we did with Mark Gay. £50 million is where we stayed, and we stayed there for 2 weeks, even though Crystal Palace moved the goalposts every other day, further and further away, as if we were chasing the cheese. It just doesn't work anymore. I think there's a real good management system now in the boardroom to realise that this is what we value that player of, and if we don't take it, we'll go somewhere else and pay again. But the value that we expect you to be paying for that player. Now, listen, I love Mbeumo. I think he would suit. I think he's an honest player, and I think these honest players, it's like Eddie Howe wants a baller. As in he wants somebody who can play football, who loves the game, who's got the spirit of the game, and I think Mbeumo gives you that. He's an honest player.
What do you think about? What do you guys think about the fee in itself? Because the Telegraph also talks about the fee is 60 million being a lot of money.
It's
for
60
him.
plus, isn't it? I think that's going to be the negotiating.
I don't think 60 million is untoward at all.
Normally, I think you'd be paying somewhere around 80 million if he was at a big club. If he was at like the likes of Milan or whatever, I think you could be looking upwards of 70 million because he's at Brentford. You're not paying them the money out.
So I agree with you guys. In short and sweet, if Newcastle are thinking that's too much money, then if they truly believe it's too much money, then they're not good for real. Because I mean, what do you can't expect to pay a small amount of money for a BMW or a Mercedes-Benz.
Exactly.
So
I also think now, if you look at the prices of players of his stature, of his ability, that's what you're going to be paying now.
Exactly. The only other
they're looking for 50 million for Tyler Diblin, for God's sake. You know what I mean? It was 100 million. If you, like I said, when you weigh it up, who would you rather have if you're going to pay 50 million for Tyler Diblin? Now, yes, he's a young lad, he's an up and coming lad, but you've got somebody who can literally
I'd rather have the finished article. Would you want
compete
any projects?
for the first team. Exactly. We've got enough projects behind him in our under 21s, and that's what I said. When you look at the lads that are coming in now that we've signed via Mitchell for the under 21s, the youth side, there's some good talent there that may need another 18 months to develop. Why bring in somebody valued at 50 million to develop? You might as well go and spend that extra 10, 12, 15 million. Bring Mbeumo in. You know what he's going to give you.
Finished article.
And he can. Well, he's better than what we've got on that right side.
Right. Yeah. All right. Next one is we are, by the way, linked to the 18-year-old. That's why I read that news and then went to this one, and I'm like, are you kidding me, man? 18 years of age, Albacete striker Christian Cofane this summer, according to Mundo Deportivo in Barcelona, Spain. So, young Cameroonian has 6 goals in 13 La Liga 2 starts. He's playing in the second division of La Liga in Albacete. Since joining the Spanish outfit last November, he has 6 goals and has a release clause of just 5 million. And that right there, reading the Mbeumo news, it just all doesn't make sense because we're going for a £5 million player. We don't want to pay, or the reports are that we don't want to pay 60 million for Mbeumo. If all of that's true, then our priorities are all over the place. Hopefully it's not, but it's something to bring up. Mark Douglas.
The only other thing about Mbeumo, of course, is African Cup of Nations.
That is true.
And the same with.
But I tell you what, though, hey, it's same as getting an Asian player, or sometimes South Americans can have that same pool. You're gonna get a lot of Africans buy that shirt, so that works as well for money reasons.
Yeah, but there's only the African Cup of Nations is the only
I understand that.
continental international competition which which overlaps our season.
Yeah, no, I understand that. But it's, I guess you sign up for it, type of thing. Mark Douglas, it says that Newcastle is holding talks with Dean Huijsen representatives, but it looks like an uphill battle because a lot of other clubs are in there, and that just might not happen. I mean, good defender though, but I mean, it might just be a tough one. And if we can't pay more than 60 million, then I guess we just got to pick one player, one main player. I guess that could do. That could do.
I mean, the way I look at bringing in these young talent is exactly, again, you've got to think about how Man City have provided money's coming in. Chelsea have done the same. All the bigger clubs, if you like, I mean financially bigger, not in game, have a way of demanding money for their youth talent without even putting a first team shirt on. Man City do it really well. They seem to, especially since they've won all the trophies recently, they seem to attract a lot of the youth development. And like I say, you look at McAtee now that we've been linked to, the monies that they can make without even playing these players, something like £90 million if the sales all go through, the likes of Delap coming to us. That is where Newcastle need to be. It's not about picking these youngsters up, like you say, the 5 millions, because it doesn't affect our PSR, especially if he's coming in as an academy player. I mean, this lad's been classed as the Malian Messi or something like that. This attacking midfielder, he's got a lethal right foot. Again, I don't know much about the West African Football Union, but apparently he's a very, very good player and been scouted by some really top European sides. And even the likes of Man City have had a look at this lad. So again, he's not a player that hasn't gone by the by regarding scouting. And I think, like I say, for us to be on the same wavelength as the big six now, whoever the big six are these days, because it seems to change, whoever journal reports it, whoever their bias is towards, for us to get to that next level, we need to have depth in academy where you sell and buy players that won't even feature in a black and white shirt. We've done that. We've already started that with Minte, even though our hand was forced to a degree.
Yeah.
As far as centre-back's concerned, old Tosin Adarabayoyo.
Adarabioyo, he's certainly
who can't get Chelsea outbid us for him in terms of wages.
Regretting his life choices.
And Chelsea being in the predicament there, and they can make money off him. They can release some wages, which they're paying him. 180 grand a week. I think he's on there. They can release him. Suppose they get 30 million for him. It's 30 million pure profit, and we can get a centre half who Eddie wanted last season.
How much you want to pay for him?
I think you'd probably get him for 30 million.
Oh well, I mean that could do.
They're going to be doing what we've done with Kelly, aren't they?
Yeah,
Lloyd
exactly.
Kelly, and you're utilising the money that you're getting for Lloyd Kelly to bring in another. I mean,
if they really want him though, because I feel like they might just keep going for Mark Gahey, and that's.
I believe that as well, mate. I think Mark Gahey is the one that they're going to be chewing the bit over, especially now he's in his final year of his contract.
I think that's what interests Eddie. Last but not least, though, we had an interesting comment that I read from a fan on X that caught my attention because it does have it makes some sense. Craig Hope wrote an article, but there was a fan that wrote as a comment, and I thought I'd bring it up to see what you think on the managerial type thing, up on the director box type subject. This fan says Craig Hope bang on about Silverstone, and I don't know what he said about Silverstone, but he's saying this bang on about Silverstone confidential, by the way, literally owned by a country, and he hasn't managed a training ground or training kit sponsor. Mental, considering he's been here 3 years. So this fan is called Sam at NUFC 7890. What do you guys think about it? It caught my attention because I was like, yeah, I mean, it does have a point. PSR has nothing to do with that
Revenue generation.
Yeah. So what? He's been in the club 3 years. PIF has a lot of detractors, but as well as detractors, they have a lot of when you put PIF, the PIF name behind it, people want to invest. People, it's a big I don't know, corporation. It's bigger than that. I mean,
bear in mind, since Silverstone came in, our revenue, commercial revenue, has almost doubled. It's went from 180 million to nearly it's to 350 million. He's almost doubled our revenue in 2 years. So for me, he's doing a pretty good job, and he's keeping his powder dry. Because, of course, it's easy to. It would be the easiest thing in the world to get multi-billion-pound deals, sponsorship for training ground, training kit, etc. But would it pass the the APTs?
You have said that we need to just do it, and because they won't punish Man City, they can't punish us. So. You said that.
Well, yes, I have said that.
So then what are you talking about? You can't
that window is gone now because now those rules are there again. Even though they're still illegal as far as I'm concerned, they're still there. Whereas we had the window of opportunity when they'd been proven to be illegal for to then go and do stuff. And we could say that at the time we did the deals, those rules were illegal and have been proved to be illegal.
So... but remember Aston Villa and Newcastle. Newcastle and Aston Villa are the only clubs that without a training kit sponsor. If you have a PSR issue, I think that it needs to be the task that you do every day is to make money. How to make money?
Okay, I'm sort of second guessing everything, but my opinion is that we have got Arab-based sponsors just sitting, waiting in the background for when these rules are once, because this is all under appeal now. Once that is finally, once the decision is finally made, we will then be able to get massive sponsors in instead of doing a deal now where we'd only be able to get, whatever, 10 million pound a year. We're going to be able to get 50, 60 million pound a year. So that's why I think that's happening. But as regards Silverstone, I'm quite happy with the job he's done.
Okay, well, just checking. Gary, what are your thoughts?
I mean, again, without knowing the day-to-day running of how the club works, I mean, we're on the right trajectory. I mean, we're always going to question why they haven't got the front of shirt sponsors on the training kit, why they haven't got a training ground name, why we haven't got a stadium name, because there is still lots of money to be made. But you think of the deals that he's done with the likes of Seller and alike, these are big corporates, and they're bringing in the revenue yearly, and it's getting higher and higher. And again, as daft it looks, and I don't like to say, I don't want to speak out of turn, but the way I look at it is this part of the project? Is the reasons why we haven't gone in and said the likes of, and if you remember the likes of Man City just didn't jump on the bandwagon about getting big sponsors in. They waited until they become quite successful before they went into the Emirates and things like that. You know what I mean? The Arsenal, exactly the same. Are we waiting to become the club, get the players in, and then you can sell the club for what it is, rather than the project for what we're starting now? You got to think about, yes, we're losing out on some money, but are we just waiting and delaying until we become the name and the brand rather than just the club? That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing for me is, bear in mind, when Silverstone took over, he was quoted as saying the commercial department at Newcastle United, when he took over, consisted of 10 people.
10 people, yeah.
That was 10 people, like typists,
Admin people, wasn't it?
Admin, It's now 150.
Well, haven't they got their own little
They've got their
place
own
over the
building now,
the office, yeah.
And that in itself took a lot of work to just to recruit all the right people to fill those positions. And that's there now in place, and we're seeing the results of that with the likes of Phoenix, who've come in. All these smaller sponsors at sort of £5-10 million a pop. So I think that's unfair to
I just think we couldn't be a bad club if we've got the likes of Adidas on board. And
that's a massive thing. Now, one thing I could say in defense of people that think that things are moving slow as far as that's concerned is it hard to get Sella in when they're owned by PIF? It's the same thing with Win was saying,
Noom, isn't it?
With Win was saying, that we might have sponsors waiting already because we have a relationship with PIF. So, is it that hard to do that? I'm not going to.
With where they come from and people's rights and things like that, there's a lot of question marks to some of them. I understand that, and I appreciate people's values and views on that. For me, though, it's like I said, are we just waiting to sell the brand rather than just the club to potential suitors going forward? And for me, it's we've got to sell the project to players first. Get the team on board, because, like I said, 3 windows without a transfer, a player coming in of any stature shows that the fact that we have been hindered a little bit. But I think going forward, mate, I think it's going to be big.
The future's bright. The future's
black and white. Exactly. and if you think about it, for me now, the talk about a brand new training ground, state of the art training ground, and things that are going on. But they're still willing to put money into the old place and make that state of the art with what we've got at the moment to what we can build on. So it's not as if we've stopped, and it's not as if the likes of Peter Silverstone et al. Are doing nothing. They are trying to do whatever they can within the areas that they can improve what we own already. So for me, it is getting better, and we will get better, but it's time. We're not going to get better overnight.
All right, then. Well, it's been a wonderful show. Please hit the like button. Don't forget to do that. And become a member if you can. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. If you're a Newcastle fan, we got content for you every day. And we'll be back again on match day. So join us for that one. We'll see you later. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Win. How away the lads?
How away the lads?